Greetings, Internet. My name is Chris, and this is my guide for a stamina PvE Dragon Knight. This is probably going to be the last build I do for Summerset and Wolfhunter. A few things with this build will be changing with Wolfhunter, but it's not really anything major, and really there aren't that many new things happening with Wolfhunter that I think you'll see a lot of new builds coming from that, you know, besides from the completely broken werewolf setup. Anyway, so let's start off with the gear. So normally, there's two setups, and it's kind of similar to the reason why you would have two setups if you use Sororia. But the sets we use are Selene. Obviously you want divines and everything. I still need to transmute this piece right here to divines. Infused is second best. But yeah, so you got Selene, which triggers on melee attack or melee damage. You've got Reliquin, which for some reason the stacks from Reliquin count as melee, so they proc Selene. And then you have Ravaging. I haven't tested out with Infused because I don't farm enough crystals to be able to just constantly, you know, test out new traits and stuff. I think Infused might be better, but I don't know what kind of impact it will have on sustain. But anyway, so Ravager is our other set. And you can see we use weapons with Ravager. I have one axe and I have a dagger. I'm not sure if Nirnhound is the best to use on the axe or if Infused is. I did a few tests, so you can see I've got like a ton of weapons here on the side. And it was kind of about the same every single time, and you do a lot of light attacks or heavy attacks, which you know, makes this worth it, I think. And the dagger is infused, and you can see we've got poison on the axe and weapon damage on the dagger. And then we have a maelstrom bow on the back bar. I've got mine Nirnhound because I use poisons with it. So I think Nirnhound is probably the best to go for there. If you don't use poisons, you would go with Infused. The poisons I use are damage health potions, or poisons. Just quickly show you what it takes to make those. It seems that poisons are better than, what's it called? Better than enchants, at least on the back bar, with a bow. So to make them, you would use Alkahest. It's a weird glitch with the wall here. Let's see, you would use Alkahest, you would use, what are these called? Fleshfly Lava. And then you can either use, I think it's either, you would use, what's it called? Nightshade, and then you can either use Emetic Rustler, or you can use Stinkhorn. If I can find it here. So, you know, Fleshfly Lava, what was it called? Something shade, Nightshade and Emetic Rustler, or those two and Stinkhorn. It creates the same poison, I'm fairly sure. Let's see. Yeah, same poison. And basically I just have that on my bow bar. So another thing is that because Reliquin counts as melee damage for some reason, not only does it trigger Selene more, but it also triggers Ravager more, because Ravager is also triggered on melee damage. Ravager tends to have about an uptime of 50%, usually 55 or 54. We'll do a test and we'll see what we get. Which means it'll give you about 315 weapon damage, which along with the 4-piece weapon damage means that it's about, you know, 450 more or less. And that's, you know, that's really, really good sustained weapon damage, I think. Beats out Hunting's Rage, basically. Obviously, you know, it only works because it's melee. It used to be that, you know, obviously the traits on the jewelry were healthy, so it wasn't very good, but now that you can transmute them, it's really, really good, I think. Similar to Elfbane. The place you get the place you get the Ravager gear is same place as the Elfbane, which is Blasterus. And there's a vendor, I think right here. It's either this place or right here. I think it's right here. And you can buy boxes that have basically all the gear in it. The daggers are pretty rare and they go for quite a lot of gold, but it's a really good setup, I think. Let's see, we've got 64 points into stamina. You might have to mess around with this. I'm an Agonian, so I get a little bit more health. You might think, why are you an Agonian? And just, you know, don't ask. Then we run the Lover Mundus, and then just basic health, stamina, food. That's about it. Let's see. Start with the main bar. This is a dot build, so it's basically just you go through all the skills and then return. Someone's sending me a message, I don't know why. So for the first skill, we've got Venomous Claw, we've got Noxious Breath, Rending Slashes, Deadly Cloak, Flames of Oblivion, Flawless Dawnbreaker. Then on the bow bar, we've got Poison Injection, Endless Hail, Trap, Rearming Trap, Razor Caltrops, Molten Armaments, and Standard of Might. The reason why we run Molten Armaments is because it gives you a 40% increased damage to heavy attacks. And we do about 3 heavy attacks per rotation, so Light Weave, Claw, Light Weave, Breath, Heavy Attack, Slashes, Heavy Attack, Cloak, Heavy Attack, Flames of Oblivion, Swap, Light Weave, Endless Hail, Light Weave, Caltrops. It's a little bit hard to light weave them if you've got latency. If that's the case, it might actually slow them down, so depending on what kind of results you get, you might want to not light weave them. Obviously light and heavy attacks trigger Reliquin, so you do want to make sure you light weave at least the trap and the injection. And you would just use Molten Armaments whenever it runs out, which is about every 3 rotations, I think. Something like that. One second, I'm just gonna check. For fuck's sake. Just some people don't know what Do Not Disturb means. Let's see, that is basically everything. Let's see if I'm missing anything. Alright, let's have a look at champion points. I don't know if my setup is that good, but I'm just gonna show you what I have. So I've got 52 in Warlord, 19 in Sprinter, 8 in Bashing Focus, 19 in Movement Calf for some reason. I guess it's because I do a lot of heavy attacks. 64 in Tenacity, 44 in Tumbling, 44 in Shadow Ward. Blue Tree, we've got 21 in Physical. Why do I have 21 of this? One second. That's wrong. We should have a lot more points than this. 52, there we go. 14 in Physical Weapons Expert, 52 in Mastered Arms, 52 in Thaumaturge, 52 in Precise Strikes, 56 in Mighty, and 24 in Piercing. In the red, I've got 56 in Ironclad, 21 in Spell Shield, 56 in Thick Skin, 49 in Hardy and Elemental Defender, and 19 in Quick Recovery. So that's what I've got there. Obviously, it's very subjective, and obviously there are probably much better setups to run for your CP, but that's up to you to figure out, because I'm not really min-maxing the CP as much as I could, because I'm not very good at it. So that's for other people to figure out, I think. Anyway, I think we should just do a rotation. You always start in the bow bar, so you would use your potion first, and then you go through Endless Hail, Caltrops, Trap. Actually, because we've got our ultimate ready, it's Endless Hail, Caltrops, Ultimate, Trap, Poison Injection, Swap. If you can do the swap fast enough, I think it actually bases its damage off of your dual wield bar. I'm not sure if that still is a thing, but it used to be a thing. And then you just go through these, as I mentioned, light attack weave, heavy attack weave with these 3, and then back, and then through again, and so on. We also start off by buffing molten armaments beforehand, so we don't have to cast a mid-fight, or at least not in the beginning, because you will have to rebuff it, obviously. Right? And let's give it a try. So they're making a slight nerf to Reliquin to counter the broken werewolf setup, which is adding 1 second cooldown to it. That won't change anything for this setup, so yeah. It honestly doesn't really change much for the werewolf setup either. Okay, this time around we're gonna rebuff our molten armaments. We do it before the injection. That way you can still do the quick swap. You might notice there's a little bit of time lag every single time I swap bars, and that's simply just because of the latency. I'm always playing with at least 200, so that's just kind of something I have to deal with. If you look in the bottom, under above my health bar, you can see my buffs. The one that looks like a orange fist or something like that is Ravager, and you can see it's up quite a lot. Rebuffing armaments again. You see, about this time we're about to run out of resources, but it always tends to coincide with the ultimate, which, you know, that works really well, and the potion. So the sustain could be a little bit better. Obviously it's not amazing, which is why I have to do heavy attacks, but I think the damage sort of makes up for it. You can see we're hovering about 40k right now. Mostly because I haven't screwed up, and mostly because my light attack weaves are going off without a problem. Normally it's not really always the case. I got problems with the heavy attack weaving sometimes too. This time, because it's low, we're gonna pop our Dawnbreaker. We're gonna skip one of the heavy attack weaves. Otherwise you kind of end up your Endless Hail and Caltrops run out. Actually, I beat my highest DPS just then, because it was like 40, what was it, 40 something. 40.9. So you see we got 41.7 while I was commentating. That's a new record for me, I think. Normally I don't do that well. Oh shit, I just spilled my drink over myself. Alright, so you can see here we've got Endless Hail as number 1, of course. In close second we've got Arms of Reliquin, just below 5k. Race of Caltrops at just under 3. Then you've got Venomous Claw, Poison Injection, and Celine. Celine did 2k in my second best attempt. It kind of varies. The ones that are based on proc chance do vary, like San will vary about 600 DPS I think on my DK DPS. Because it's just like the random chance sometimes just fucks with you. And also the DPS can be very based on when it procs. If it procs during your banner, obviously that will do more damage and so on. Then we've got Flames of Oblivion. You can see it's actually quite a good skill despite being a magic skill, because it does almost the same as the Rending Slashes Bleed. Then we've got Rearming Trap, which is not only a good buff, but it's also good DPS, I think. Then our heavy attacks, it's listed twice, once for the main hand and once for the offhand, I think. The poison weapon, obviously if we had infused on the main hand, that would do a little bit more damage, but then you would lose the weapon damage, and everything else would do less damage basically. Then Noxious Breath. I know a lot of people don't run the breath on the DK. It does the major, the major fracture, which obviously for self DPS is pretty good, because you don't get the fracture normally. but a lot of people won't run it, but I think honestly the DPS is still worth it. Then you got Blade Cloak, which is not only reduces damage from AoEs by 25%, but it's also, you know, decent DPS, and it's quick to cast. And then our light attacks, again, I think this is main and offhand. Standard doesn't do that much DPS, like 1k, but it's a big circle and it buffs the shit out of you. Then Poisoned, which comes from either Noxious Breath, Poison Weapon, or Poison Injection, or Venomous Claw. And then our Poison should be listed several times. Yeah, you can see right here, and is that it? Okay, it's only listed twice. But yeah, so you can see together that does about 1200. Twin Blade and Blunt Bleed, which is from the axe, 600. And you know, a bunch of other stuff like the secondary Poison Injection effect, Rending Slashes secondary effect, Rearming Trap secondary effect, Caltrops secondary effect, and so on. All in all, I think it's a pretty good setup. You can see I got quite a decent amount, and this is definitely the highest DPS I have, like the one that does the most. Obviously, oh, you can see 70% on Ravager. That's a pretty good uptime. Let's see, actually, let's calculate. It's about 620 multiplied by 1.7, so it's about 434 plus. Let's see, the one piece, or the 4 piece, I mean, is 126. So it's about a sustained 560 weapon damage, which is really strong. Anyway, so what I was about to say is that obviously this setup is not amazing for all fights. In fact, if you use it on the last boss in Cloud Rest, I forget what she's called, but if you use it on the last boss, it's gonna be pretty much worthless, because every single time the boss goes into the ground, she doesn't come back up until like 3.5 seconds later. So unless you perfectly time light attacks to always keep your Reliquant up, your Reliquant will reset every single time she moves, and she does that about every 20 seconds. So I don't think Reliquant is good for that fight. For most other fights, if there's not too much movement, it's obviously pretty good. So when you're not running Reliquant, you would run Twice Fanged, I think. On my DPS test, it's quite a bit lower. I can show right here. With 3.7. I think I could push it a little bit higher. In the past, with Twice Fanged, I've gotten... let's see here. Is that Twice Fanged? No. I think I've gotten like almost 38. Just have to find it here. No, that's the same one I just clicked on. Anyway, so like you can push it a little bit higher than 37, maybe 38, but obviously that's still, you know, a good 3,000, almost 4,000 DPS lower than with Reliquant. And the reason why Reliquant is so strong is not only is it 5,000 DPS, but it also triggers, you know, Selene, and it triggers Ravager. If you compare the uptime here, you can see 70% Ravager with Twice Fanged, the uptime was 51%. So quite a big difference there. But yeah, so that's pretty much it. I don't think I missed anything. No. Anyway, yeah, I think that's just it. This is the last build that I'm gonna post. Obviously, I've posted a lot of builds recently. I'll have a video out in not too long, like a few weeks maybe, where I'll do like a small channel update because of some things that are changing. Anyway, thanks for watching.